You know that feeling when you want to work, you genuinely want to, and your brain just refuses? Not tired, not distracted, just locked. I lived that feeling for years, and every single time it happened, I told myself the same thing. Something is wrong with me. Let me tell you about a specific Tuesday afternoon during my residency. 3 reports due by 5 p.m. Documents open, pen in my hand, coffee already, not the first one, not the second one, the third. And I sat there for 47 minutes watching the clock like it was personally responsible for my suffering. Not because I didn't know what to write, not because I didn't care. My brain simply would not start. So I did what any rational person would do. I made a 4th coffee. Did not help. Not even a little bit. Shockingly. What I didn't know, what nobody had told me, was that what I was experiencing at 2 p.m. wasn't a motivation problem. It wasn't a discipline problem. It was a neurological event, with a name, with a mechanism documented in peer-reviewed research. And this is the part that changed everything for me, with a 2-minute solution. That's what this episode is about. And I promise you, by the time we're done here, that afternoon feeling is never going to make you question yourself again. I'm Dr. Marcus Cole, neuroscientist, physician, and someone who spent more Tuesday afternoons completely frozen than he's proud of before he finally understood what was actually happening. And I want to be upfront from the start. This is not productivity advice. This is not a life hack. This is peer-reviewed neuroscience. And the protocol it produces takes 2 minutes to apply and 0 willpower to maintain. Because it doesn't ask anything from your willpower. It routes around it completely. Here's what we're covering. First, why dopamine specifically crashes at 2 p.m. in the ADHD brain. Not just in the afternoon, at 2 p.m. There's a reason it's that specific time, and that specificity matters. Second, why everything you've tried to push through it, the extra coffee, the longer list, the internal pep talk, deciding you'll just start with the easy thing first, has not only not been working, but has been making it worse. Yeah, that one stings. Third, the 2-minute technique. What it is, why it works neurologically, and why it bypasses the entire problem instead of fighting it. And fourth, the exact 3-step protocol you can use today. Not next Monday, today. Before we go further, if this video found you because 2 p.m. is genuinely the worst part of your day, this channel was built for you. Real science, 0 judgment, 0 just try harder energy. Hit subscribe, because the next episode picks up exactly where this one leaves off, and you'll want to be there. Let's get into it. First thing I need to do is validate something for you. That wall you hit every afternoon, it's real. It's not in your head. It's not what happens when you don't want it badly enough. It is a measurable, documented, reproducible neurological event that researchers can predict before it even happens. Here's how it works. Your brain's dopamine doesn't stay constant throughout the day. It follows a schedule, a circadian rhythm, just like your sleep cycle, just like your cortisol, and that rhythm has a very specific shape. Morning, roughly between 6 a.m. and noon, dopamine is on the rise. This is why most people with ADHD report their best hours in the morning. Focus comes more easily. Starting a task feels less like climbing a mountain. Tasks that feel impossible at 2 p.m. feel completely doable at 9 a.m. That's not a coincidence. That's your dopamine schedule doing exactly what it was designed to do. Then comes the post-lunch window, and this is where your brain hits what I call the valley. In neurotypical adults, this dip is uncomfortable but manageable. The prefrontal cortex stays online enough to push through with reasonable effort. In the ADHD brain, and this is the critical difference, the baseline dopaminergic tone in the mesolimbic system is already lower. So when the circadian dip hits, it's not dropping from a full tank. It's dropping from a tank that was already at 60%. And 60% minus the afternoon dip gets you to a place where initiating any task feels, and here's the word I hear most, impossible. Not hard, impossible. Think of it like your phone. Most people start the day at 100%, and by 2 p.m. they're at 60%, enough to run any app, enough to function. Now imagine you start every day at 60%. By 2 p.m. you're at 20%. And at 20% certain features just stop working. Not because the phone is broken, because the battery doesn't have enough charge to run them. That's your dopamine at 2 p.m. The phone isn't broken, the battery is low, and no amount of telling the phone to try harder is going to charge it. That wall you've been hitting every day for years, it has a name now. It has a mechanism. And you just became one of the very few people who actually understands what's happening instead of blaming themselves for it. That's step one. And just the understanding, is already more than most people will ever get about their own brain. All right. Now that you know what's actually happening, let me tell you about everything that doesn't fix it. Because I'm guessing you've tried most of it. More coffee, longer to-do lists, telling yourself you'll just start with the easy thing, setting a countdown timer and then watching it count down without starting, rearranging your desk. Opening a new browser tab like a different tab was going to unlock something different. All of it, and I say this with complete solidarity because I did all of it, completely misses the actual problem. Let me start with the coffee. I had a coffee machine the size of a small spacecraft in my office during residency. Serious piece of equipment. Industrial level. I treated it with actual reverence. And I can tell you from personal experience, and now from the neuroscience, that the fourth coffee at 3 p.m. does something very specific. It increases cortisol, it blocks adenosine, which creates a sensation of alertness, but it does not replenish dopamine. So what you get is alertness without direction, wired but not working. The lights are on, but the engine won't start. And for anyone with ADHD who has experienced that specific combination, awake, alert, stimulated, and somehow still completely unable to begin the task in front of them, you know exactly what I'm describing. And it gets worse. Every time you sit in front of a task at 2 p.m. and can't start, your brain does something quietly destructive. It associates that specific task with the experience of failure and frustration, which means tomorrow, the initiation barrier for that same task is slightly higher than it was today. You're not failing at productivity. You're accidentally training your brain to avoid the thing you most need to do. Force of will has the same problem. Every attempt to override, every just do it internal battle costs neurological resources you don't have at 2 p.m. And the internal friction, the self-criticism, the why can't I just do this loop, creates more cortisol, which competes with dopamine further, which makes next Tuesday afternoon harder than this Tuesday afternoon. You're running the wrong tool for the actual problem. Have you ever noticed that on the days when you finally do start, when something just clicks, you didn't actually try harder? Something just shifted. And then you worked for 2 hours without stopping? Drop that in the comments. That experience is not random. It has a neurological explanation. And it's exactly where the 2-minute technique comes from. Now you know why the old approach never worked. That's already more than most people in your situation will ever understand. Seriously. Here's the deeper mechanism. And this is the one that, when I finally understood it clearly, completely changed how I thought about every afternoon I'd spent frozen at my desk. Initiating a task is not the same as doing a task. In the neurotypical brain, the ventral striatum, the reward anticipation center, activates when a person thinks about starting something they intend to do. The anticipation of future reward creates a dopamine signal that provides the motivational push to begin. If I write this report now, I'll feel good when it's done. The striatum processes that future reward, generates dopamine, and the task starts. In the ADHD brain, this mechanism is disrupted. The ventral striatum has a significantly blunted response to future rewards. Not immediate rewards, future ones. Rewards that require completing a whole task before you get them. The brain doesn't respond to, you'll feel good when this is done. It responds to something interesting is happening right now. And at 2 p.m., with the dopamine valley at its lowest, starting a task whose reward is 20 steps away is neurologically like trying to start a car with a 15% battery. The engine works, the fuel is there, the driver is capable, the battery just doesn't have enough charge to fire the ignition. Here's what took me a long time to accept, and I want you to sit with this for a second. This is not a personality trait. This is not laziness. This is not you not caring enough. Researchers can see this difference on an fMRI scan. It is biology. And biology, unlike character, can be addressed. The spark that fires that ignition at 2 p.m. is not motivation. It's not coffee. It's not a better list. It's 2 minutes, literally. Before I show you the technique, I want to pause here for a moment, because what I just explained, the dopamine rhythm, the initiation mechanism, the ventral striatum. This is the foundation. And understanding it already puts you miles ahead of where you were 20 minutes ago. But I want to be honest with you. This episode covers one very specific problem, the 2 p.m. wall. One mechanism, one technique, one protocol. Your ADHD brain has more than one challenge. You already know that. The 30-day brain reset system was built for people who are done with partial solutions. Inside the system, there's a complete dopamine protocol, not just the 2 p.m. fix. The full daily dopamine rhythm mapped out. How to structure your entire day around your neurological peaks and valleys. The specific dietary and sleep interventions that measurably improve basal dopaminergic tone in adults with ADHD. All of it built on the same peer-reviewed research I'm using right now, and it goes far beyond ADHD. The system covers anxiety and depression through the gut-brain axis, cognitive decline and Alzheimer's prevention, sleep architecture optimization, brain nutrition, 47 foods ranked by neuroscience, every dose explained, 10 complete protocols, every study cited, every DOI linked, Harvard, Nature, JAMA, and Stanford. No guesswork, no false promises. The QR code is on screen right now. The link is in the description. It's also in the pinned comment below. Take 30 seconds after this video. Your afternoon brain deserves a complete system, not just one episode. Now, let me show you exactly how the 2-minute technique works, because this is the part that's going to make your next Tuesday genuinely different. Here's the research. In 2006, Peter Gollwitzer and Pascal Sheeran published a meta-analysis reviewing 94 independent studies on what are called implementation intentions. The headline finding, forming a specific if-then plan reduced the neurological cost of initiating a behavior by up to 40%. 40% across 94 studies. Now, what is an implementation intention? It's a sentence, one specific sentence. In this format, when I specific trigger, I will specific minimum action. Not, I will work on my report this afternoon. That's a goal. Goals require the dopamine-dependent motivational system that's failing you at 2 p.m. An implementation intention sounds like this. When I sit down at my desk after my break, I will open the document and write one sentence. One sentence. Not the whole report. Not a good sentence. One sentence. Here's what happens in your brain when you say that out loud. The if-then structure moves the when-to-start decision out of the prefrontal cortex, depleted at 2 p.m., and into a more automatic processing route. The decision is already made. When the trigger fires, the action follows. Not because you're motivated, because the decision is no longer up for debate. You're not fighting your dopamine valley, you're routing around it. Think of it like a GPS rerouting around traffic. The destination hasn't changed. The route just doesn't go through the blocked road anymore. And the critical detail, where most people resist the technique, is the minimum action being embarrassingly small. I know, one sentence feels too small. I need to do the whole thing. Trust the science on this one. The goal of the minimum action is not output. The goal is ignition. Once the engine starts, once you write that one sentence, the dopamine from that tiny act of completion signals the striatum that the reward pathway is open. And the striatum, which wasn't responding to the future reward of a finished report, responds immediately to the present reward of having started. The gap between one sentence and the next sentence is neurologically tiny, compared to the gap between 0 sentences and the first sentence. You're not building the rocket, you're just turning the key. The rocket takes care of itself. Every time. All right. Here's exactly how this works in practice. One rule. The implementation intention has to be formed out loud, immediately before you sit down. Not on your morning list. Right before. Because the neurological effect of the if-then structure is strongest when it's formed close to the trigger moment. So here's the scene. It's 2 p.m., coffee in hand, list open, laptop ready. Normally, you sit down, open your email for the 4th time and stare at the cursor. Instead, before you sit down, you say this out loud, actually out loud. When I open my laptop, I will open the proposal document and write the opening line. Say it once, then sit down, open the laptop, open the document, write one line. Why out loud specifically? Because verbalizing an intention creates a secondary memory encoding. The auditory loop engages alongside the frontal planning system, giving your brain two signals instead of one, which matters enormously when the dopamine available for memory at 2 p.m. is limited. And now I'll tell you the part that genuinely surprised me when I first read Gallwitzer's original work. I was skeptical in the way that scientifically trained people are skeptical of things that seem too simple. I remember thinking, this cannot actually work for people with real executive function difficulties. This sounds like advice for someone who just needs a little nudge. And then I tried it on a Tuesday. 3 reports due by 5 p.m. Said the sentence out loud in my empty office, which felt slightly ridiculous, I won't lie. Set a 2-minute timer and wrote the opening line of the first report. 2 hours later, all 3 were done. I've been using it every Tuesday since. I want to ask you something, and I genuinely want your answer in the comments. What's the one task you've been avoiding for more than 3 days? Not the specific task if it's personal, just the category. Work email, creative project, something I promised someone. The patterns there are always fascinating, and the implementation intention for that specific type of task is exactly what we're building right now. Let me now give you the complete protocol. 3 steps, specific order. The order matters, so I'll explain why each step comes before the next. Step 1, the 10-minute strategic rest. 10 minutes, not 20, not 30, 10. I know, I don't have time for a nap, or I can't fall asleep in 10 minutes, or my boss is going to think something is wrong with me. Valid reactions. Here's the science first. Research on post-lunch rest periods documents that a 10-minute period of closed-eye rest, even without actual sleep, partially restores prefrontal cortex activation. Not fully, partially. But at 2 p.m. with low dopamine, partial restoration changes the equation enough to matter. And 10 minutes specifically matters. Not 15, not 20. Because around 15 minutes, you start entering stage 2 sleep. Waking from stage 2 creates sleep inertia, that heavy, foggy feeling that makes the next 30 minutes worse than if you'd stayed awake. 10 minutes keeps you in the threshold state that restores alertness without creating inertia. Set the alarm. Lie down or recline. Close your eyes. You don't have to sleep. When it goes off, stand up immediately, not in 5 minutes. Immediately. Step 2, the implementation intention, out loud right now before any screen. Before you open your laptop, before you check your phone, standing up after the 10-minute rest, you say your sentence. When I open my laptop, I will open specific task and do ridiculously small minimum action. Say it, then open the laptop. Step 3, the 2-minute timer with a micro reward decided in advance. Set the timer. Before you start it, define the reward. What happens at the 2-minute mark? A sip of water, 30 seconds of a song, standing up, anything concrete and immediate. This isn't about the reward being pleasant, though that helps. It's about activating the ventral striatum before you begin. The anticipation of an immediate concrete reward, even a tiny one, generates the dopamine signal that the task's distant future reward is failing to generate. You're creating the ignition charge artificially, through expectation. Timer starts, task opens, minimum action happens, and then, in the vast majority of cases, you keep going, because the engine is running, and running engines have their own momentum. I want to show you the actual research, because I know 2-minute technique sounds like something off a productivity Instagram account, and you deserve better than that. Gallwitzer and Sheeran's 2006 meta-analysis in Advances in Experimental Social Psychology reviewed 94 independent studies, 40% reduction in initiation cost, consistent across demographics, contexts, types of tasks. But the specific finding that matters for this episode, the effect was proportionally larger in populations with executive function difficulties. People for whom initiation was hardest showed the greatest benefit from explicit if-then plans. Because the technique is specifically designed to route around the part of the executive function system that fails under low dopamine, the deliberation-heavy prefrontal process that asks, do I want to do this right now? It removes that question entirely. The decision is already made. The trigger fires. The action follows. A follow-up review by Gallwitzer specifically examining ADHD populations found consistent replication. The automatic nature of implementation intentions made them particularly effective in exactly the context where self-regulation capacity was reduced. That context, reduced self-regulation capacity, is every adult with ADHD at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Now, I want to say something about what this protocol is not. It doesn't fix the underlying dopamine architecture of the ADHD brain. The valley at 2 p.m. will still happen. The lower baseline dopaminergic tone is still there. What changes is your relationship to it. You stop fighting the valley. You start routing around it every time. Without willpower, without extra coffee, without the afternoon becoming a verdict on who you are. That is not a small thing. Let me tell you exactly what to expect, week by week. Because setting the right expectations is what determines whether someone sticks with a protocol long enough for it to become automatic. Today, the first time you use it, most people report surprise, not at the technique working, at how easily it works. The friction of starting that you've been attributing to the task being hard turns out to be almost entirely the friction of deciding to start. Remove the decision, and the starting just happens. You'll probably spend the first 30 seconds waiting for the resistance that doesn't show up. That's not magic. That's the decision being made before your depleted prefrontal cortex could overthink it. Week 1. The timer becomes a conditioned cue. Your brain learns the pattern. Timer means start means small reward means continue. By day 5, seeing the timer begin to activate the initiation sequence automatically. You're training a new neural pathway, not through willpower, through a 2-minute repetition, weeks 2 to 4. The paralysis episodes shorten. What used to be 40 minutes of frozen frustration becomes 10, then 5, then sometimes just the timer, and you're already in. The ignition gets easier because the circuit has been practiced. Consistency at 80% beats 2 perfect weeks followed by abandonment. Use it today. Use it imperfectly if needed. The technique is robust enough to work even when you're not at your best, because that's the entire point of routing around willpower. Start imperfect. Start today. The circuit gets built either way. And here's what I want you to remember the next time 2 p.m. rolls around and the wall shows up. You're not frozen because you're broken. You're frozen because your dopamine battery is at 20% and you've been trying to start a car with the wrong key. You have the right key now. Use it. Everything I explained today, the dopamine rhythm, the ventral striatum, the implementation intention mechanism, none of this is a character assessment. This is not a video about what kind of person you are. It's a video about what kind of brain you have. And those are completely different conversations. The person who has been frozen at 2 p.m. every single day is not someone who doesn't care. They're not someone who isn't trying hard enough. They are someone whose dopamine curve drops to a point where the standard initiation mechanism fails, and who never had anyone hand them the neurological workaround. You have that now. Today at 2 p.m., before you open anything, say the sentence out loud. Set the timer. 2 minutes. See what happens. And then come back here and tell me about it. What was the task? Did the engine start? How long before you looked up and 40 minutes had passed? Every comment gets read, every single one. And the next episode. We're going into something that a lot of people with ADHD have experienced but never had explained. Why your ADHD medication might be losing its effectiveness over time. And what's actually causing that at the neurological level. It's not what most doctors tell you. It's something you can actually do something about. That one is going to genuinely surprise you. You just learned what took researchers decades to prove. Your 2 p.m. starts today.